Hello and welcome to this tutorial in which we're going to look at making a whackARmole game for the Oculus Quest, sorry, the Meta Quest. So if you find any part of this video useful, please remember to like and subscribe and maybe leave a positive comment below. Okay, this is the order which we're going to do things. Just basically create a new project, import the Meta All-in-One SDK, add some scenes, add the rigs, put some code in, should be done, or something like that. If you've not watched my projects before, then this is how we can set the project up. So I've just created a 3D core project. I've made sure I've gone to the asset store and chose the Meta XR all-in-one. I've gone to Unity package manager. I've looked into my assets. I've found the Meta all-in-one and I've pressed install. Then I'm making sure I've gone to the build settings, changed to Android, press switch platform, gone to XR management, make sure I install those, choose Oculus itself, and then finally go over to the player. I'm choosing Android 10. I haven't experimented with the other versions. I just know that Android 10 seems to work just fine for the Quest. I've then gone on to the Oculus settings, of which I've just made sure I'm fixing all of these potential glitches that may have occurred. And then we're left with our actual scene. Okay, get rid of that for now. Go on then. Okay, so I've got my now blank project set up just how I've said. The only slight changes since I took the screenshot on that quick speedrun PowerPoint, the Meta version has changed to now version, where are we up to? I've lost it. I have to pause this. Oh, there we are. It is version 63, not version 60. This has obviously come out 4 days ago. I've not seen any changes yet, but I've not really gone looking. Okay, so I've got the basic project. I'm going to delete the default camera, don't need it. I'm going to come down to packages, scroll down to XR Core SDK, down to prefabs. I'm just going to drag the camera rig on, making sure it's at 0, 0. Yep, it is. That's good. Now, to help me with scale, I am just going to add a cube, which I'll delete a little bit later. But if I add a 3D object cube, that's where my cubes go in. I'll just bring this out a little bit. Okay, so the cube just acts as a bit of a positioner scale for me, so that if I just click on my camera, there's the camera. I'm just going to move the cube forward a little bit, so we can see the cube's now in front of where the camera height is. Put that on the ground. So again, if I just click camera rig, there we go. We can see that's where the camera rig is going to be. It's just basically on floor height. So I'm going to click on the camera rig, coming down here, and we'll change that to floor level. Because I'm going to want to do pass-through, I'm just going to scroll down to where it says pass-through, which I've already forgotten where that actually is. There we go, pass-through supported. We'll need to do that. Enable pass-through, tick. So this will allow the AR bit to actually work. Okay, is that where I need? Yes, yeah, so like I say, I'm just treating this as a 1 meter cube table. It's going to help me position things. Now, prior to starting this project, I did go into Blender and I made a basic whack-a-mole table, which you may have seen in the open animation, where I've just basically made a cube. I've added basically a torus and a cylinder to act as the holes can come out of. And because I'm recording this on Easter Sunday, I have just made an egg. Just a sphere, stretched it, and then I've just made a hammer out of 2 cylinders. And then I've exported each one of these models as an FBX. So nothing too fancy there. Okay, so if I'm going to leave that there for the moment. Again, this is just temporary, I'll delete it later. I'm going to right click, add a UI, which is going to be my canvas for our user interface, UI. I'm going to add a raw image. If I can see that now, again, this is massive. This is why I put the cube in, because then I can see what's kind of happening. In fact, we can see, I think, the cube just down there. This is way too big. So I'm just going to click on the canvas and we'll change this to world space. I'm going to then change the size of this down to, well, move the position in so it's 0, 0, 0. I'll leave the width and height alone for now, but I'm going to change the scale down to 0.01. This should give me something a bit more usable. I've just pressed F to focus in. So now we can see the canvas is pretty much the same size as that cube, so I'm going to put it just above it. And on that canvas itself, I'm going to just put a splash screen for the game. So if I go into my assets folder, I've already created a folder called whack for whack-a-mole. I've already got a few things, the FBX files, some sound effects, and a whack-a-mole graphic. Now I've cheated a little bit and I've used some AI art just so that I can see Yeah, so I can basically see the a splash screen. Made AI art just to make it easier for me. I'm going to add some text. So UI Text Mesh Pro. Yep, I want to import. Not bothered about the samples. I can just change this text to say click to play. So it's not actually a button at this point. Okay, I'm just going to have a little quick play with this. Let's move that round. Let's center the text. I'll do. I'm going to resize this a bit. Seem to have lost the control handles, which is a little bit disappointing. Oh, that's why I'm looking there. That's what I want to see. Okay, writing's still too big, but that's fine. I'll just make it a little bit smaller. That'll do. And again, feel free to play with these things yourself. You know, spend 10 minutes, spend 20 minutes making it look nice. I'm just trying to speed run to show you the basic steps. So I've now got that, and again, I can probably hide this. Now, the reason I'm doing it like this now is I'm going to save as. So it's going to save this scene, scenes, and this is going to be my start menu. I'm now going to do save as. Oops, did I want to do this just now? No, I'm going to do two more bits. OVR camera, I'm going to just drag this out. Make these a bit further out. Controllers, I'm going to come back into my package manager. Sorry, yeah, down to the packages, where I'm going to drag the controller. So if I drag the controller prefab onto left hand, controller prefab onto right hand, I can now just say I want this to be left touch and that one to be right touch. So now I should be able to see the actual controllers. Yep, there they are. I'm just doing this now because it'll save me some time in a moment for both scenes, and I'll come back to this in a little while. So all we're going to do is if we press A button, it's going to load up the actual main game. So I'll come back to that shortly. I think that's all I need for the moment. I've not done Passthrough yet. Go on then, we'll do that now. So if I add a new empty, I'm just going to call this Passthrough. I'll come over here, add component, OVR, Passthrough. I want this to be an underlay. I'm going to leave that as alone. I'm going to come back to our camera. Center eye, skybox, nope, solid colour, oh we missed, solid colour, then make that black, and wherever it's now black it should replace it with the camera image from your Quest. Now this is for Quest 3, but it should work for Quest 2 as well, but I've not actually tested it. So I've got a floor level set, that's fine. I'm going to press save. I'm now going to press save as. And this is where our main game is going to be. So again, I'm going to go into scenes, start menu. I'm just going to call this sort of main game. Maybe I should give it a more sensible name. That'll do for now. And I can delete the raw picture now because I don't need that on the main game. That's where our score's going to go. So I'll close that down. Let's click on our, again, I'm probably going to delete this in just a moment. We'll bring that canvas up a little bit. Okay, so let's start building the scene. If I go back into my assets, into my whack, into my board, we'll bring the board on. Okay, so I can see the board is a bit bigger than the meter cube, so maybe that's a bit too big. And again, this is the reason I put this in there. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to scale the actual game itself. Okay, that'll do. Might make that cube a bit smaller in a moment and leave it there as a table stand. So I've got the cube on there, which is my board. Sorry, is that? No, there's the board. Okay, I'm now going to drag my egg onto the game. I'm just going to come to top view. Zoom in a little bit. I'm going to move these eggs around. Let's just see where I can move where I can see it. It's a bit big, so I'll scale this down a little bit. Okay, so there's one egg. That's really where I want. Well, I'll tell you in a minute. So I've got one egg. I'm going to. What have we got? We've got a sphere fill. We've got the thing. I'm going to add a box collider. I'm going to say this is a trigger. I'm going to add a rigid body. I don't know if I need it, but I'm going to add it anyway and just say it's kinematic. So it will detect collision detection, but not actually fall through the world. So I can minimize those for the moment. I'm going to tag these. So add tag, add a tag, egg, and this is the common mistake now where we forget to actually add it to the item. Back onto egg, and now say yes, this is an egg. And again, feel free to make yours a mole or a furry character or a little monster or something to your choice. So now I'm going to duplicate this. Yep, there we go. I'm going to try and do these properly. I'm actually going to create an empty, and this is where my eggs are going to go. I'm going to drag these two onto the empty, so it's now a parent of it. So I've got egg 1, egg 2. Let's move that over. Control D to duplicate. Now get lazy and just select all of these 3. Control D to duplicate. Control D to duplicate. Okay, so I've now got 9 potential eggs. I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it. Maybe just having 1 and have it sort of move space, but I just thought this might be the easiest way for me. So I can now move these sort of just down below the height. Now if you notice in Blender I also put a plane over it so that it looks like it's just appearing out of the darkness. But that's the position where I want them to start. Okay. So the next bit we want to do is write some code that's going to make these eggs or moles, it's up to you, it depends what game you're making, jump up and down randomly. So I'm going to create a script, which I'm just going to simply call egg jump. I'm not sure, I always struggle with names for files, but this will do. And I'll just double click it to open in Visual Studio. Okay, so there's not a lot. It's not a complicated script to make these eggs move around, but there's a few bits going on. So let's just start the first few variables. And I might be introducing something new now. I've got a header. This just puts me a subtitle inside the Unity inspector. Serialized field. This just means this variable is still private, but I'll still be able to see it inside the inspector here, which is going to make it more convenient for us. So I've got a serialized field, means I can see it in the inspector. It's a floating variable, floating point number. I'm calling it pop height. How high do I want this egg to jump up off the board? And for now I'm just saying it's 1. And again we'll have to trial and error this. Vector 3 start position. So where is it actually starting? Well, I just showed you that. I want it to be at that height just there. This means again it's dynamic. We can move things around without changing the code. And then the pop position is basically where is it currently popping to? How far are we going? Okay, I'm then just going to create a few more variables. Same again, I'm creating another little header. So debugging temporary. We might not want to see these publicly. So I might remove the serialized field. So pop state, is it sat still? Is it jumping up? Is it lowering back down? Has it been hit? Which is why it's an integer, because there's several variations it could be. And then the wait time, how long is it going to stay up before popping back down? And right now I'm saying wait time is 1 second. Okay, so inside my start function, I want to get the current starting position. Pop position, I'm just saying is also the start position. This is just because I like to initialize all my variables at the beginning to make sure there's nothing erratic happening. And then pop position.y, in fact, do I need that? We'll see. Is basically whatever our pop height is. So if we've set this to 1, it's going to add that 1 to its pop position. Where are we jumping up to? So this is its target position. Okay, so inside our update, now as you've seen we are starting at 0, but in the update function, if pop state is 1, okay, so if it has been popped, something's triggered it to pop, I'm saying if pop state is 1, then we're going to transform the position by using the lerp, the linear interpolation. So this will smoothly move it from its current position to our pop position. Where do we want it to go up to? And again, I experimented with timings, and 5 times delta time felt right to me. But again, you could play about with this number, you could make it a variable, you could make it serialized so that you can play with it in the settings window. Now this bit, if you're not familiar with this, if maths.absolute, this just basically turns any number into a positive number. So even if it's negative, it becomes positive. And I'm taking away the pop's target position away from its current position, and if that is less than 0.1, I'm going to say it's reached its target. Otherwise it could just sit at the top and just sort of vibrate for a bit, never really getting there. I'm saying if it's close enough, we've reached the target, and in which case pop state equals 2. So we've reached the top. We're going to go to the waiting function, and I'm going to say the wait time is now a random number between 1/2 and 2. So how long is it going to hang about for before dropping back down? So that takes into our pop state 2. So in pop state 2, this is where we just simply, it's a delay. That's all that is, sort of wait here. So wait here, so wait time, and again we take away time at delta time, and if wait time is less than 0, we're going to go to pop state 3, so it's just a countdown timer basically. And then pop state 3 is we're just moving the egg, or in your case a mole, or whatever it is you're creating, we're going to move it back down. So if pop state 3 is we now do the lerp from our current position to the starting position at the same speed. Again, you could play about with these to make it feel more fun. You could even make it jump off the table. There's all sorts of things you could do. Same bit of code again, maths.absolute, transform. If it's start position takeaway from that position less than 1, then my pop state equals 0, which means of course it's triggering none of these. It's just going to stay where it is. It's going to get to the bottom, just hang around until something changes its pop state. So what changes its pop state? I'm coming outside of my update function. So that's end of update, just in case you missed it. So, but I'm still inside the class. So I'm still inside my class egg jump, but I'm outside of update. I see a few people making these mistakes of where the code's going. So now I've got a new function called pop. So if something triggers pop, it's going to set pop. If pop state is 0, then pop state equals 1. Now I've put that in because what if something tries to pop it and it's already popping? It's already in the up position. We don't want it to suddenly get all messed up. If it's on the way back down, we don't want it to jump back up. So if it's 0, then pop state equals 1. Okay, so that should in theory make our egg jumping down. So I'm going to go and try it, and I'm hoping this is going to work okay. Okay, so I'm going to drag just the egg jump code onto just the egg for now, and we can see all the variables that we serialized, so I can now see them in the inspector. If I just press play, it should hopefully let us manually override, so I can test before going any further and see if we're happy with these numbers. So if I just say pop state, I'm going to go pop state equals 1. We can see the eggs jumped, obviously way too high. So maybe we could just change this down a little bit, just 0.1. Let's just try that. Still too high. Maybe we'll have to experiment this a whole lot further. And again, this is the important bit of trying these things. Still too much. Okay, so a quick play with the numbers, 0.25, and should just about do it. I made a slight oversight in my code. Because I said in the start function, let's set the height, and then never do it again, it doesn't actually matter what we do while we're actually in live runtime. It only makes a difference if I change it, stop it, change it, stop it, etc. So if I now just have 0.25, if I flip that to 1, we can see it jumps up and then goes back down. What goes back up? Because basically this 0.25 is now, no matter what I do, it won't change unless I press stop and then change them. So again, little mistake there. Okay, so we've now got one egg working. I can obviously drag the code onto the other eggs. And again, I'm going to want to make sure I change that to 0.25. Again, please feel free to make your changes. What I should really do very quickly is, rather than putting that there, is I should really maybe change that inside the pop state. So just do that there, but then it's unnecessary processing, because once you've calibrated it, you probably won't want to play with these anyway, unless you want to put some random value there so they can jump different heights. But that's up to you. I'll press save anyway for now. Okay, so the next few things we need to do is add the hammer that we can collect and then hit the eggs or your moles on the head. But what I'm going to do is create a I'm just going to check they're all, yeah, they're fine. I'm just making sure they're all tagged. I'm going to add another empty, and this is just going to be our main game controller. So I'm just going to call it game controller. I'm going to create a new script, which I'm going to call main game. I suppose I should call this game controller as well. It's your choice. So I've now got another new script, wherever it's gone to. Still compiling. Okay, so in our main game controller, I'm going to want the text box so we can put our score on. Oops. So I've got, again, I'm doing a little header called pop-up settings, TMP Text Pro. Obviously I've not included it, that's not a problem. I'm just going to say using TM Pro, there we go. So it's now should be okay, got the text box. I'm going to want to get a link to the eggs as well, because this is what's going to cause it to pop. So what do I need? Just come back there, that'll do. So I've got an array of eggs. I've got my pop-up timer. So how often do I want to fire an egg up in the air? I've got the score itself, and I'm also going to have a countdown. So this level will take about 30 seconds to play. See how many you can hit in that time. Now in my start function, I want to get a link to all the eggs on my scene. So I'm going eggs, find all objects with tag. So it's important you've spelled that correctly. And that's just going to fill this array up with all the eggs in our scene. So if you wanted to have a game with hundreds of things in, you absolutely could. Okay, so inside my update function, I'm going to just sort of have the countdown timer running. So that's the first thing. So countdown timer running. If it's less than 0, I want to load my main start screen. In this case, I just called mine start screen, didn't I? Let's go and double check. Oh, I called it start menu with a little m. So menu, there we go. Scene manager, I've not included that library. So again, I'm just going to come up here using Unity engine.scene management. So now it can load our start screen. Now obviously, if I was to complete this game, I'd have this going to an end screen where you could see your scoreboard and your performance and how many hits and how many misses, etc. But for now I won't. Okay, so the main function I want now is to create an update moles or update eggs or whatever you want to call it. And I'll just show you what I've previously created. Again, I'm outside of the update, but I'm inside of the class. So I've got update moles because again, it is a whack-a-mole game, and I imagine tomorrow I'll replace the eggs with actual moles. So pop-up timer is another countdown. So you can see I've already started it at 1. So inside the update mode, it's going to discount that, and when that gets to 0, I'm going to choose a random egg. So it's just a random number. Is the range between 0 and how many eggs have we got on the scene. I'm creating a link to this script. So I'm just using a variable, a var. This just means I don't have to type what actual data type, data structure script actually is. So I've got a var script equals eggs random dot get component egg jump. So I am basically getting hold of this script that is attached to whichever egg it is I am clicking on. And that way I can then just go script.pop. So it's calling this pop function on the egg script that it's meant to be, and then I'm just resetting the timer to somewhere between 1 and 3. And again, you might want to change this to change the playability and the fun factor based on experience. So basically all this does is choose a random egg and make it jump. So back up in this update, I'm just going to go update moles. I could have put this function inside the update, but I do like to separate them out. It makes code easier to read, and we can now see I'm doing the timer. I'm then updating the moles, or eggs, or whatever you want to call them. And then, since I'm here, I'll do the last function inside this bit, which is my update GUI, my HUD, whatever you want to call it. Oops. So update the graphical user interface. I'm just creating a string, which I always call buffer. Time. Just getting what the current, well, right in the word time, converting the game time to string. If you've not seen this before, this just means it will prefix with 2 zeros. So when it gets down to 1 second, it'll still say 0, 1 point, and then that's to 1 decimal place. Notice there's no semicolon there because I'm carrying on the string on this line. So I'm then appending it with the score plus score. So just watch your grammar on lines like that, and then I'm assigning the buffer to the text box. Again, I could have just copied all this to there, but I like to separate things out. It makes it easier for me to read and see what's happening. So I'm copying the scoreboard in. So if I just press save, so this should now be mostly functional. So what I'm going to do is go back to Unity. Okay, so if I'm back in Unity now, it's finished compiling. If I just press play, it's not perfect, but we'll see that it is in fact sort of making these eggs jump sort of randomly. So we can see the first one's going. There we go. So it is moving, but what I've noticed is the height seems to be a little bit erratic. So I'm going to have a close look at the script to see what's going on there. I was expecting to see that at different heights, but it's not. So I might just change those down a little bit to just 0.1 instead and see if that's a better height. Okay, that's a bit better, not coming all the way up in the air now. Again, it's just important to play with these numbers. That seems to be getting a little bit higher. Is there something going on? I'll fiddle with that later on. But you get the idea. We've seen these things jump up and down, ready to be hit. Okay, so we still need to do something because we've not got the hammer, we've not got the collision. So I'm going to go back into my code, back onto my egg. I want one more function, and that's checking if it's actually hit or not. So I have got a function which I'm just using the built-in on trigger enter. So if I just go on trigger enter, there we go, it's finished it off for me automatically. I'm going to copy my code in from my previous script. Okay, so I'm saying if, I'll just close that, I've not added sound yet, we'll come back to that. If the other, so if whatever is colliding with this egg is the hammer, so I'll have to tag the hammer, and pop state is greater than 0, because right now we know the eggs are already in existence, they're just there, which means if you swing the hammer through, you get a collision. So I'm saying the egg has to be in the middle of going up, waiting, or coming back down. Then pop state equals 0. So I'm resetting it. I'm putting the start position back to where it was, and I'm giving the score 10 points, which, because I made that public, so I made it static public integer, which means this script can talk to that variable. So public makes it publicly accessible, but static is what I need to be able to access it from this function. Otherwise it won't let you do that. Okay, so I've now got, yep, we're resetting the egg, resetting the egg's position, giving you 10 points. We'll come back to the sound in a little while. We should now be able to hit it. But what we need to do is have something to hit it with. This is where it could, oops, some AI art stuff. So I'm now going to import my hammer. So if I just drag the hammer on, okay, so the hammer's there. This is probably a little bit too big, so I am going to scale this right down. Okay, so I'm scaling that down. I've made the hammer head about the size of one of the holes. I don't know if that's going to be playable or not, or whether that's going to feel right or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create an empty for the hammer handle, because I need two colliders on this. I want the collider where you pick it up and a collider that actually hits the object. So is that my empty? Yep, there's my empty. I'm just going to move that to about the handle. It'll make sense in a moment. And I'm going to drag my hammer onto that. So now, hopefully when I drag the hammer handle, there we go, it moves it with it. Okay, so I'm going to go on the hammer handle. I'm going to add a box collider. Let's have a look where that box collider's gone. So I want to edit the bit, way too big. So what I'm going to do is just drag that down. So it might have been easier. In fact, I'm going to undo. No, we'll stick with this. We'll stick with it. Sometimes what I like to do is just add a little cube where I want it to be, and then it's easy to put to size things properly. Okay, so I am. So this is where I want the user to sort of pick up the hammer by, about that area. And I'm going to tag this. So again, add tag. And I'm just going to call this, what did I actually call it in the code? No different bit, I'll come back to that. Always difficult trying to remember what you actually want to do. Oh, never mind, doesn't matter. It's always tricky when you come back to doing these sort of walkthroughs when you've already previously done it. Okay, so clicking on Edit Collider, and where was that? Is that about right? Will that do? That'll do, okay. So again, that's the collider where your hand will collide with it to pick up the hammer. I'm obviously right-handed, which I'm putting to the right of the table. You obviously can move where you see fit. And now on the hammer itself, I'm going to add another collider to the hammer bit. Again, box collider. Move that round, and I only want it to be on the head part, so that should be okay. And I'm going to tag this. Again, we saw in the code earlier, the code was if it's the hammer. So I'm going to add a tag, add hammer, back on the hammer itself, tag hammer, there we go. So that is now, it's got the thing on. I'm clicking back on it because I also want this to be a trigger, I want this to be a rigid body, I want it to be kinematic, sorry. So I hope that should kind of work. Now, I don't want it to be solid because otherwise it'll fall to the floor. It could start to collide with your hand itself, which is why I'm making it all like a trigger and that. Okay, so we've now got the hammer. Now, if memory serves, what I needed to do was rotate this hammer as well. So I'm leaving the handle where it is, but I want to rotate the hammer around. I think that's what I had to do, because otherwise the hammer kind of picked up backwards. I'll just do this manually. 180. So hopefully that should all be fine now. We'll have to test that in a moment in the real code. Sorry, in the real Quest headset. Okay, so we've got the hammer, we've got the collider, we've got the on trigger. So the only thing left to do now is to, I think, is to actually compile it. So you saw the beginning, I'd already done build settings, I've already got Android. In fact, before I do it, I'm just going to press play. I know where we can test it before we go anywhere. Because when you start messing with the VR, it can slow you down a little bit. So if I click on the hammer, click on the movement, what I can, is I can just simply hold this over. Sooner or later an egg will, oh, I know what I forgot to do. There's always something. On our game controller, it is expecting a text box, and I forgot to drag it across. So if I drag the text box across, it should now start outputting game information. Which it's not doing. Okay, I've lost count how many school child errors I've made. Obviously we've got the update. Yes, I wrote this code just fine. I've linked it up just fine, but what did I forget to do? I forgot to actually call it in the main function. Such a common mistake. Why is that whinge? Have I spelled that wrong? Of course I spelt it wrong. There we go. So now, I'm sure, honestly, I make these mistakes on purpose to sort of show you the common mistakes you could make. Okay, so we're back in the code. Should be able to press play now. We should see the GUI updating straight away. All I'm going to do is just move this hammer around if the egg pops up around this area, and we should see the score going up. There we go. So we saw the score go up by 10. I'm not going to worry about moving around too much, but we can see the whole thing is kind of working now. Okay, so now I'm still concerned the eggs are jumping up higher, but we'll tweak the numbers up shortly. Okay, so a quick bug fix. While I was trying to show you some of the code earlier, I actually made some changes to it that I shouldn't have made. So if I just stop this and quickly show you, what we don't want is we do not want that line there, because it was adding height to it every single time it popped. So of course it was going to get higher and higher. So I have just gone quickly back and just gone into the eggs and just changed the 0.25 like I did originally. This is the trouble with changing code on the fly. So what have we now got? We've got the hammer that hits the eggs, they drop back down, you get some score, you get some points. So I think we just need to do a few finishing touches now, which is we can go back to our main scene. So I'm just going to save. I've not saved for some time, that's a bad idea. Okay, I'm not sure why, that's nothing to do with my code. We'll worry about that in a little while. So I'm going to press save. I'm going to go on to build settings. I'm going to add this current scene. I'm now going to go back into my other scene, into my start menu, and now again I'm going to go on to build settings, add this current scene. I'm going to move these around so that this is that's the order of which they'll load in. I'm now going to add some code that should make our actual thing work. So again, I'm going to need a little empty for our start menu. Add another script, which I'll call start menu. I hope I've not got one of those already. Okay, so this one's fairly quick and easy. I'm not going to do anything too fancy with it, just a simple if statement. If you press button 2 or button 4, it's going to load the scene up. So again, I'm just going to include the using scene, using Unity engine.scene manager. Obviously we don't have that, so what did I call it again? Was it just main game? I'm going to have a quick look, make sure. Main game, yeah, with a capital G. So let's have a quick look. And that should, when we press any of these buttons, it should load up the main game to play. And then just like before, on the main game itself, if the timer runs out, it should load the start menu, so it should loop back around now. Just gives us that finishing bit. So we're just over half an hour in. I thought this would be a little bit quicker than this, but again, it sort of shows the point that if I can do this in half an hour while talking to you, what sort of game could you make over the course of maybe 1 or 2 hours? You know, sort of game jam sort of quality. Well, better than, you know what I mean? You can spend a few hours and do something nice rather than a rush job. So, I can probably get rid of this cube now. I'm just going to hide it though, just turn the mesh render off so it's still there. This should have the pass-through working. I'm just going to check my final steps. I'm still concerned about these errors. These were not here earlier, but this is a newer version of the Meta SDK, so maybe there's a bug or a glitch. We'll find out in a minute if it's going to work. So again, I'm just going to save changes. I'm going to want to build and run. It's going to ask when I want to do it. I always create a folder called dist for distribution. I'm just going to call this wham for whack-a-mole. I'll put AR01 just in case I have multiple ones, and I'm going to press save. Let's go. Okay, this was a couple of errors. These weren't there in the version when I tested this yesterday on my other machine, but it's just asking me to go to the Meta XR and make sure they're set to required. So let's fix those. Let's apply that. Obviously this is because clearly a version between this update and that update being a bit displaced. Let's hope that doesn't cause too big a problem. I've also gone into the pass-through, no, not pass-through, sorry, onto the OVR rig and just changed that to required. Where is it? Pass-through to required rather than supported. Okay, so that error was quite a big one, not caused by anything I've done or, well, we've done. I found the error by flicking through Google and coming across this little bit. Still didn't make much sense to me, but a bit of faffing later. I basically went through into the package cache, found the interaction, copied it. I've then gone back into my actual project, gone into packages where I've pasted it in there, and I've just deleted the @ version number from it, and then waited for the whole thing to recompile, restarted Unity, and then it's finally actually built the project. So where were we up to? We've obviously got the scene. I've just tested it is working, but the pass-through doesn't seem to be working at the moment, so I've obviously missed a step out. Oh, I remember now, because I went through quite a few steps trying to fix that error. Back on camera rig, and I need to actually enable pass-through again. Pass-through required, yep, that's fine. Like I said, I deleted everything, so I'd start again, trying to work out where the mistakes were. So I'll save that. I shall come back into so I've lost track. I've spent about an hour trying to fix that mistake. I say mistake, it was something between the Meta version on this and the laptop that I created originally. So I'm back into this bit now, just checking my camera rig again, coming down here, floor level, because like I said, I deleted everything. Maybe I shouldn't show you this. Enable pass-through. So that was on floor height, wasn't it? I'm just going to bring this up a little bit because I'm staying sat in my seat. I think at the moment I've not actually hooked up the collision detection for the actual hand. So while I have set up the hammer with the box collider and I've set up the actual thing, which we know that bit's working, I've not actually got a collider on the grip, but I'll just make sure this is running properly. So I am just going to go again and just now do build and run. Save changes, yep, and I shall be with you in a moment. Okay, so our final step, I hope this has taken a lot longer than I was anticipating, is we need the hammer to be pick-upable. Now if you've watched any of my earlier tutorials, you might have already seen how to pick up and stuff in VR. I'm using the exact same code, so I'm just going to create a new script called pickup. That's already attached to the hand. So I'm doing this the sort of lazy way. I've just opened up the script from my older game where I could pick things up, and this again, I can attach to any VR object. So I'm going to I don't know how much this code I actually need for this version. And if you want full details, it's on an earlier video. But again, the start transformation, so it's where is it in screen, which controls picked it up, is it picked up or not, and which hand has picked it up. I'm just going to speed run this bit, like I said, just because I've already covered this in an earlier tutorial. So when it starts, I'm just recording the position it's at, both its position and rotation. So if I want to put it back, I can. Inside my update function, I'm just going to drag all this across my older code. I'm just sort of saying if it's the right, in fact I'm going to comment this out. Oh no, I'll keep this in for now. I'll just have to put some variables in my other one. I like to keep track of which hand's picked an object up. So basically if you've pressed the button, this allows you to put things down and whatever you. but I'll come back to that. Don't really need it all. I'll share these scripts on the GitHub as usual. If picked up equals true, then basically it matches the position. That's the key bit. In fact, I'm not sure if I even need that bit. Oh well. Do I need that? Yeah, that'll do. So I think the main bit of the code is, like I said, if it's picked up, it's going to copy where the hand's going, which is what this part's sort of up to. Outside of this, I'm doing an on trigger enter. So again, I'm going to copy and paste this code from an earlier project. Again, outside the main class, update function, but inside the class. So now on trigger enter, GameObject.tag. If it's the right hand or the left hand, then we attach it to that controller. We can see it's complaining about these. So I'm going to go into my main game, and I'm just going to put 2 new variables in, which I should be able to put here. And now it just knows that those hands are in use. It stops you from trying to confuse which hands it's being picked up by. Oops. That'll do. Okay, so if I go back, it should now have stopped whinging, and it has. Okay, well, I'll finish off one last bit of code, and that is the sounds. And then we should really, honestly, be done with this. So I'm just going to bring in both an audio source and an audio clip. So just here, audio source, audio clip. So obviously this is the audio player, and that's the sound that it's going to play. And I'm just going to come down into my on trigger enter, which I think you saw earlier on anyway. I just commented it out. Yep, I just did that. Basically, it'll play the sound what you give it for at volume 1, so 100%. Okay, let's nip back into Unity. So I've just highlighted all the eggs. We've now got this audio clip, so I'm just going to drag my splat sound across. So now it should play a sound when you hit it with the hammer. I'm going to go onto my controllers. So this is the important bit. I'm going to go onto my controllers, left hand. In fact, I can just do this from here, can't I? I'm just going to click both hands. Yeah, this should work fine. If I just add a sphere. Okay, it didn't work the way I wanted it to. That's fine. I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller. This is just so I can visually see what's happening. Oh, that did work. There we go. I can shrink these right down. I should zoom these in a bit. This is just so I can see something what's colliding. It helps me visualize what's going on. So I've got a sphere collider on both of them. I'm going to tag them. So I need to add the tag right hand and left hand. So if I just click on that sphere left, so you choose a tag left hand, click on the sphere right hand, just click on both of them. I've got a sphere collide, that's fine. Well, let's make those triggers. This should now we should now see the little sphere moving around the switch. And again, you can turn the mesh render off once you're happy. I just like to that so I can see what's going on. Okay, so because they're now tagged, jumping back into this code, on trigger enter of the pick it up, if it's left hand or right hand and you've not got something else in that hand, like say it's a code I used earlier on, it will pick it up and it will assign it to that hand, so it should now work, I hope. So that took quite a bit longer than I was anticipating. I thought maybe 15-20 minutes, but you saw some bugs that occurred that had not come up when I did my last run through. If you found any part useful, please as always like, subscribe, maybe consider sharing the video. Things that I might now start doing is, like on the canvas, adding a UI, a raw image. It doesn't have to be an image, by the way, it's just my way of doing a little background. You know, I'm putting the score kind of in front of something. So if I play about with the colours a little bit, maybe make that transparent, put the raw image behind it, I've now got a sort of a back plane. I might do a nice little texture as well, so I can just see it a little bit easier. You know, maybe put some wooden texture or something nice, something pretty, but that will be easier to actually see what's going on. Get rid of the table, make sure the scaling's all right. But I think I shall leave that video there. Please, by all means, you know, download the code from GitHub. I'll put a link below. Make it better. You know, take what I've done, spend a few hours on it, make something much better quality. And I shall see you in the next video.